Why do you think that is? What is the inherent benefit of being Nike as opposed to another shoe company?
Well, I think if you were going to shop for a suit and there's an Armani suit there, you'd like to wear that Armani suit, and someone gave you a choice between Armani and this, you say, well, boom, I feel more comfortable in that suit sitting over there. So they make a great product that these kids have grown up playing in. So when you talk about an advantage, if kids are comfortable in Nikes and want to play in Nikes in your school and wear Nikes, it's an advantage.
Are there kids out there who wouldn't consider schools that are sponsored by other companies?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think kids are out there going to look at other schools because of who's coaching at those schools as well. Okay, head coaches, style of play, proximity to being at home, academics, all of those things go into play when you talk about recruiting. And at some point in time, you get down to sitting with a young man and, oh, by the way, we wear Nike, we play with a Nike ball, or someone says we wear Adidas, someone says we wear Under Armour, whatever. That all plays into it. But when kids are making major decisions, it's going to come down to your coaching staff, style of play, opportunity to play. Those things are far more important.
The Pac-12 and the NCAA have created commissions to look into the scandal within the NCAA. If you were asked to speak in front of one of those commissions, what is one change that you would advocate for?
Well, I would look at it, and maybe I'm looking at it from a different set of eyes, having played in the Pac-8 and coached in the Pac-10 and coached in the Pac-12 as well, and even been on your side of it, being on the TV side of it as well too. And I think the thing that I would say is that this is a great game that has grown immensely. And it's enhanced a lot of people's lives, and even in terms of the media as well too. And I would caution, number one, that everything that I have seen centered around this, there's been 4 faces that are constantly blasted across the country. And it's looked at to perceive that this is a black assistant coach problem. That is not the case, and I think people need to be well aware of that. This is a college basketball problem that we have an opportunity to do something about. We already have such a declining number in terms of African Americans and their opportunity to coach at this level, and all of a sudden, every time you open up something and look at the story, there they are. That's not fair, and that's not right and everything, and I would make sure they would understand that this is a college basketball problem, that we have an opportunity to make right the ship, send in another direction, and we need to make sure we take full advantage of that.
One thing you'll hear around the industry is that African American assistant coaches are often labeled as recruiters. How much does that bother you, I guess?
It bothers me immensely because, again, that goes back, I think when you look at all sports across the board, they had to put in a Rooney rule for football because they're looked at as good coaches, but they couldn't coach. At one point in time, we were talking about we couldn't quarterback, and all of a sudden, here we are just good recruiters and being assistants. And I don't think that's fair. I think you got to understand in our society today, when you're dealing with young people, it's about relationships and being able to mentor and communicate. There is a reason that in the last 10 years, the African American graduation rates have skyrocketed from 44% all the way up to like 78%. College basketball in general has gone from about 62% up to 80%. Why is that? Why are our athletes graduating at such a high rate right now? It's because of the mentoring that's taking place in these programs more so than anything, of having your arms around these young people, and that's why I give kudos to all assistant coaches, because as a head coach, my job sometimes is I'm limited how much access I can spend with my guys. But at the same time, I've got great personnel working with me that really do a nice job of putting their arm around these kids and leading them in the right direction.
How do you guys feel you are stacking up against the Gonzagas and the Washington? You brought in Ed Haskins, Curtis Allen used to play at UW, and Elwin McElroy is considered one of the more underrated recruiters in the nation. Where do you guys stack up now?
Well, I think we've had success against UW just the last couple of years in terms of what goes on the floor. I think when you talk about stacking up, what I feel like is we have an opportunity to expand our recruiting right now. With Ed Haskins, one of the most successful high school coaches in the history of Washington basketball on your staff right now. Benny Seltzer, who played at Washington State, and second in the all-time three-point shooter there, that's worked with some tremendous staffs and done a nice job recruiting, an ex-head coach. You just feel like, from a personnel perspective, that energy to step into this program will give us an opportunity to match up with those programs quite well. Now, if we can ever get Mark Few to play us, maybe we'd have an opportunity to see how well we stack up against them. He's a good friend, that's a joke.
Your old school, Oregon, their trajectory is kind of shot in the last couple of years. First question, how much credit are you taking for that? And second question, Just what can you say about the job that Dana Altman's done?
When you look at those schools I've been at, we took over a school at St. Mary's that was in a rut. Players leaving, coach had left the job, and it took us 4 or 5 years to build that program. And when I say build it, and putting things in place that allows it to have continuity. And Randy Bennett's done a great job. They're still having success today. Oregon was a tough job, and it took us some time to build it again, putting those things in place, the academic integrity, the character, all those things, to build it so it had a solid foundation so the continuity could continue. And Dana's did an excellent job of taking it now even to another level. Now we inherited a Washington State program that, again, from the inside out, we're building it. 100% graduation rates in the 3 years I've been there for those players that have stayed in your program. 3 guys that have gotten their masters, 4 more guys in line to get their master's degree. You're building it. That foundation is going to be huge. So that day I do decide to walk away, it still will be a championship program once we get it there. And that's been the basis of the success in terms of putting the system in.
Oregon
2 more minutes.
Oregon also had Elijah Brown. You guys played against him, it was 2 years ago. What do you kind of remember about his game? I believe it was 2 years ago, 2015.
Where at?
I'll tell you sure. You guys won 82-59. I have the score up.
Give me more information than that.
I'll come back.
Okay. Next question.
You mentioned the perception of it being a black assistant coach issue. What can be done to combat that, you think?
Well, to me, it's our coaching fraternity coaches association. I think it's very, very important that we help to continue to educate all of you that this is a college basketball issue that we need to get right. And it's not necessarily a bunch of African-American assistant coaches that have access to players and doing all the recruiting, that this label gets put on them is very, very unfair, because ultimately they are assistant coaches running these programs. So I think it's something that we need to make sure we take time out with as head coaches to help understand that we have a fraternity here, that we have issues we can address now. And obviously, the FBI has given us the opportunity to address those issues in a way that maybe we can move the needle now with our game. But that's, again, it's going to take all of those people that are involved with our sport need to be at the table. And that might be the student athlete, the NCAA, the NBA, the Coaches Association. That might be the media. There's a lot that goes into this in terms of making those decisions. Do you continue with summer basketball? Do you go back and let kids go right from high school to the NBA? What do you do? What changes can we make that puts this game back on a course to where it has that ultimate energy and ultimate success where it was heading before this hit us right now?
Do you think the one and done rule hurts college basketball? What's your opinion?
I don't think it hurts college basketball at all, and people get hung up on the one and done, and I revert back to baseball, where baseball you can go directly out of high school to the pros. If you come, you stay 3 years, you get your education, then you can go to the pros. That's not hurt baseball whatsoever, and people need to be cautioned again, because I'll throw some more numbers at you, that since 2007, there's probably only been about 900 players that have left college early. Only about 30% of them are freshmen. The other 30% are sophomores, and the 30% of those others that are sitting there. So the numbers aren't as great as you would think they are in terms of one and done. And at any time you have an individual that at college level that can go to the NBA and enhance his family and give generations an opportunity to have an income by being an NBA athlete, they need to go. They should go. No different than any of you at whatever age. If the best in your profession approach you and think they're ready now and they're going to pay you this much money, you would go too. So why deprive a student athlete of that opportunity?
Time for one more question.
I believe that it's something like a little bit over 60% of all assistants are African American, but only 16% or somewhere along those lines are head coaches. What do you think that those numbers say about the hiring processes that these schools undergo whenever they are looking for head coaches?
That would probably take us, you and I, an opportunity to talk a lot about what I think about it, but the hiring practices are different now.
Sure.
In that you've got to go through age